Hi everybody, it's Julie for EllenHutson.com. Welcome to Hello Monday. Today I'm going to be doing some emboss, resist, and ink blending with those awesome ink blending brushes, the life-changing brushes by Picket Fence Studios. I've been experimenting with the ink blending over an image that's been embossed on a die cut, and I thought it would be fun to share that with y'all in today's video. So I've already made a base card, Neenah Solar White, standard A2, and I took a quarter sheet of Neenah and trimmed it down by 1/8 of an inch. So it's going to create a matte layer on my card base. And I've set the card aside for a while. I'm just going to work on this quarter sheet, and I need to align this Sunrays die. This is from the Silver Linings die set, and I need to align it right here to make a window, and I wanted it 1/2 an inch from the edges there. And I realized that if I grabbed my L square from my Misty accessories, I could use that as a guide for aligning my die. And normally I try to eyeball this, but when you have a few failed attempts and you're like, okay, the old eyeballs can't do it. This really helps, and I don't know why I never thought of it before. But anyway, I'm doing it now. So I've grabbed some typing paper, and I've got my die cut shape here, and I need to put a backing on it. Now, I keep quarter sheets of typing paper on my work desk so that I can experiment with colors, experiment with layouts, and then in this case, I'm just going to use it to back up this die cut shape because it kind of flops around on you with all those die cut lines there. I don't want to snip it apart. I want to keep it together for this project. So I'm just going to run some tape runner there on the back side of it and align it in the left-hand corner there and burnish that down. And then I can go ahead and flip it over and pop it into my Mini Misty. So the reason I did that is this is going to help me keep it in place and anchor it down there so I can do my embossing. And I'm going to prep the surface here first with an anti-static pouch because I want to get a real clean finish. And you can blow off the excess, or you can use, like I use my little tidy sweeper brush by Tonic to clean off the excess. Now, I often cut apart my clear stamps and then I put them back together when I need them together, but it gives me a lot more flexibility and versatility. So right now, I actually want this sentiment back together again. So I'm going to piece it back together here where I want to stamp it onto this die cut shape, and then I'm going to go ahead and close the lid, and it will all be, mounted together the way it was originally done. Now I've got that done, just press gently, and I got my magnet there to hold that paper because sometimes your clear stamps are sticky and your paper gets lifted up, so make sure you have a magnet pressed down there to keep your paper from moving. So now I'm going to grab my Versamark pad. This is my favorite embossing ink. I've used others, but I always come back to Versamark. It's just my favorite. So I'm going to use that to ink up and then go ahead and stamp my impression. And there's the CPR method, just pressing down firmly there and just making sure I go over the whole image so I've got a nice clean impression. Now, it's harder to see whether you got a really good one or not, so I actually, slow down a little bit to make sure I got it all the way impressed there onto the paper. Then I've grabbed some detail white embossing powder. This is by Stampendous, but you could use any detail white. I don't know why, but I really like detail embossing powders when I'm doing sentiments. It just seems like with the finer image lines, I get a better end result if I use detail embossing powders. So I did preheat my gun for about 30 seconds and then came in and got a nice emboss. And then I like to tilt it in the light just to make sure that there's no granular, gritty, sandy spots and everything is really nice and smoothly, properly melted. So now it's time to start doing the ink blending over the top with those awesome life-changing brushes. And I've rotated this piece here because then I can use my left hand to hang on to the scratch paper there and use my right hand to do my blending. So I'm just going to pounce it against the surface of the paper, and then just so that y'all don't want to stick a fork in your eye, I'm going to speed up the camera here because basically I'm just going over it and intensifying the ink to get it the hue that I want. And then I will pounce that clean on my scratch paper and then use the next color. This is Melon Ice, and I didn't want to contaminate it with any yellow ink, so I did pounce off on that scratch paper a little bit before I started inking up with the Melon Ice color. So I'm just kind of blending it where the two colors meet and intensifying as needed. And then I grabbed a clean brush to add the next color because this one's a lot darker and I just was lazy and I didn't want to go clean the brush. So since I have the set, I might as well just use them, right? So I'm coming in with the Cameo Coral here to create kind of this trio of colors that kind of fade from one into the next. I don't know, you call it rainbow, call it ombre, whatever. So now I'm going to take a tissue. This is a clean tissue, and I'm just going to buff over the top of my embossing lines because sometimes the water-based dye inks will sit on top of the surface of the embossing, and I want to brighten up that ink. So I'm just going to buff it off with that clean tissue. It looks great. Now, I love this effect. I wanted to do the moped this kind of in a similar way. So I'm grabbing the cameo coral. I already heat embossed it the same way I did the other image. And I'm just keeping it there. I didn't die cut it yet because I need something to hang on to. And then I'm just going to buff it off with a clean tissue again to brighten up that embossing. And you could do this with clear embossing powder, but I think it looks really good with the white. I think it gives it a lot more visual pop. So anyway, whatever you're going for, obviously with clear embossing powder, whatever's underneath is going to show through. But I just wanted to have a really nice contrast there between the white embossing and the color that I am burnishing over the top. Now I'm turning this into a faux chipboard. So I die cut several more shapes. After I die cut the moped, I went and die cut out of scrap so I could layer these three. And I like to use the Zig 2A glue pen for that. But you could use whatever wet adhesive you really like. I find that that works best when I'm layering these pieces together to create my faux chipboard because I can get all the way to the very edges and keep it really nicely glued together. So now I've come back to my quarter sheet and I'm working on the back side of it right now, adding some strips of foam tape. And then I'm going to peel the liner paper away from most of it, but on the outer perimeter, I'm going to keep the liner papers halfway on and just fold them out. And they're going to act as handles. So I can kind of align this and then set my piece down. And that way, if I didn't get it straight, I have a little bit of fudge room. And then once I'm sure it's all nice and straight, I can press down firmly and then come around and pull the remainder of those liner papers out. Now I'm going to inset this piece that I was working on previously. I'm just going to put some tape runner on the back of it. You can use whatever you like, whether it's glue stick or whatever. But my tape runner was sitting there, so I just grabbed it. And then I can just pop that right down in place, and it's going to create that really nice inset effect with my kind of rainbow look. And I just put tape runner on the back of my faux chipboard moped there. And then to embellish the card, I'm just going to keep this very simple. I'm just grabbing some Nouveau white glossy drops to create my own enamel dots. You can use real enamel dots, of course. I've run out, so I'm just using my Nouveau drops, and these are fun because they come in so many different colors. And once I've got my drops, and I apply it by going straight up and down when I add the Nouveau drops, I will take my piece over to the edge of my table, and then I'll just slap the backside of my card down onto my work surface. And I tilted the camera, but it went kind of wonky on me because my tripod didn't have the ability to pivot that far. And that's how I get those Nouveau drops to flatten out. And I just wanted to show you how they look like those enamel dots. So it's a cool effect, pretty easy to duplicate using those Nouveau drops. And of course I have like all the colors of the Nouveau drops, right? We have all the products that were used in this video listed down below in the description box and also over on the Ellen Hutson blog. And thanks for watching.